Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new series on my channel. We're back with Stellaris and we're going to be playing as the Imperium of Man. Now, I've just spent the last 30 minutes explaining in detail what I want to do with this series. I've presented the Imperium of Man. I've explained why I chose the government I chose, why I chose the civics I chose, and I did the same thing with all the other nations that you can see here: the Eldari Craft Worlds, the Ork Stellar Empire, the Tau Empire, the Necrons, and the Tyranid Hive. And only then, only when I was done recording, I realized I had not turned on my microphone. I would have not expected such a rookie mistake to happen to me again, but yeah, it did. And so obviously, I no longer have the same drive and motivation to explain everything in detail again. So what I'm going to do here in this first, in episode 0, I don't want to call it the first episode because people always get mad at me for not unpausing in the first episode. So this is episode 0. This is a preview of the series that will start on this channel in the next week. Now, why is there a week break in between? I want to give you guys some time for two things. First of all, obviously I just explained these species in detail. I've decided not to use any mods. There are some Warhammer mods out there, but one of them has not been updated since version 2.2 of Stellaris, and another one is actually still under construction, so to speak, and it is supposed to be ready for 2.7, but it doesn't actually work for me, and even then, it would only include the Imperium of Man, but not the other civilizations or the other nations or empires, and so I had to make them my own, and I gave it the best shot possible. And so you get an overview of them here, and obviously I just had a major overview where I talked about all my choices, but again, I can't do this again, so I'll just gonna give you a view like this. You can pause here and check out what I've decided to go for when it comes to government form, civics, obviously the origin and the traits, and so on and so forth. Let me know what you think about that, and if there's anything that you believe should be changed. Now, there's one thing I do want to talk about, and that is here the Imperium of Man. It's not an empire, and I know that, might seem weird, because if you're an empire, you can have an emperor, and you can go for the imperial cult civic, which you would think would fit quite well for the Imperium of Man. But I've decided against that for several reasons, but to make a long story short, especially one that I have already explained, I didn't want to do that because I would have to go for spiritualist, which I didn't think fit the empire very well. The reasoning here is that the empire, to me, the religion is only meant to keep the empire together, right? The emperor himself is not really religious, and none of the people seem necessarily like spiritualistic. They just want the empire to be together. So it's like a figurehead. Obviously, somewhat worshipped as a god, but yeah. I feel like the police state kind of encapsulated this whole idea of the Inquisition, of traitors and heretics being driven out, and so I wanted to go with a militaristic one as well. And the problem in Stellaris is that you can't have immortal rulers, and so we would have a new we would be able to start out with an emperor, but then that emperor would eventually die. And so I've decided to go oligarchic because it's actually the Council of the High Lords of Terra that rules that governs the empire, and not the emperor himself. So I'm going to be the emperor behind the scenes, pulling the strings in a way, and obviously then in game we'll have a High Lord that will be elected every 20 years and actually does the ruling. But yeah, that's just as a quick explanation. Other than that, if you think anything should be changed, again, I'm gonna go through all the traits that we have here and all the origins. You can see them as well, the homeworld names and stuff like that. If you have anything that I need to change, please let me know in the comment section, and over the next week I will be able to change that. And for those of you who are my supporters on Patreon, specifically Jesse, Julia, Scrúdú, and G, because you're on the advisor tier or higher, you are obviously very welcome to create your own custom nations that will make it into the series if you want. One example we had during my Roman Star Empire campaign, we had the Holy Xarian Empire that actually played a big role. It was our main rival for a very long time, and so yeah, if you want to have your own nation in this series, please let me know. Provide me with information about ethics and traits and stuff like that, and I will be able to include that as well. For now, all I want to do is I want to show you what settings I want to play with, and yeah, let me get to the top here. We're going to play on a large galaxy, spiral galaxy. I just think that looks the nicest. We're going to have 5 AI empires, which is the ones that we currently have, but obviously if you guys, for example, tell me, hey, you should also include the Dark Eldars, for example, and you have a nice set of government ethics, civics, and traits. If you provide me with all of that and I like the idea, then I will include them as well. Other than that, obviously custom nations could increase this, but generally I only want to have these set AI empires. I don't want to have any others. And all of them will be an advanced AI. Now the reason here is that the AI can always use some help. Plus, for the most of those empires, that actually makes sense because they've been around for much longer. In fact, we're not going to have any fallen empires. Again, because I only want to have the empires that you just saw in the game. But I actually tried to make the Necrons a fallen empire, but it didn't really work. And so, yeah, I just decided to disable it entirely. Now, I do want to have a Marauder empire, however. We kind of actually have them with the Orks. They're barbaric despoilers, and they kind of really fit this vibe, but they won't have the Great Khan event. And this is one I just personally really like. And so it's a nice midlife, I was going to say crisis. Oh, I did say midlife crisis. That's not what I meant. I meant mid-game crisis, but you know, you get the point. It's basically a nice mid-game crisis, something I always look forward to, and so I wanted to have that included. I will leave this the way it is, habitable worlds as well. I have cranked up primitive civilizations to 5 times. Now the reason here again is because I like that. I just like that, and I also like to see one of the, you know, pre-spacefaring nations actually achieve interstellar space flight within the span of the game. This is so cool, and we as the Imperium will actually have the way to crush the xenos. It's going to be very easy for us, an easy way to take over planets. Plus, obviously, the Orks will be able to abduct them and crush them as well, have them as slaves or whatever. We'll have the Tau that potentially even uplift these species and let them fight for them. Like, this could be a potential avenue for them. And obviously, we have the Tyranids who can just eat them, and the Necrons who can just, you know, purge them or whatever. So all of these things work. As for crisis strength, I actually went with just 1.25, which I believe is like the standard. Probably 1 is the standard. But anyway, I've decided I actually only used 2 mods in this. One mod will be all crises enabled, which is going to do exactly what you think it does. It will have all the crises, the contingency, the Praetorian Scourge, as well as the Unbidden. All of them will be able to show up, which is going to be just a clusterfuck. But this is precisely what the Imperium of Man is all about. We will have xenos from every side attacking us. Like, this would be so cool. Like, I'm imagining that, like this is the endgame I imagine right now. We have the Imperium of Man, right? We have like a quarter, maybe 2 quarters of the galaxies under our control. We're constantly fighting the Tyranids and the Necrons, and we're somewhat in an uneasy alliance, well, not alliance, but uneasy peace with the Tau and the Eldari and so on. And then the Scourge hits. Then the contingency breaks free within us. We have an AI rebellion, and the Unbidden come in, and so on. Like, this is what I picture this series. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I've increased the mid-game start slightly because I've realized that I'm actually relatively quickly in the mid-game. I've explored everything I wanted to do, and so yeah, I want these. I'm at a point where I wait for things to happen, right? And nothing happens, and so I like to push that up a little bit, and I also pushed up the end game start year a little bit. I'm not sure, maybe 150 years is already a long time, who knows, but yeah, this is what I went with. We're going to play on the highest difficulty. It doesn't really matter to me, I think. And I have, however, left AI aggressiveness on normal. I could have put that to high. I was considering that. But I think with just the way the nations are set up, like the Orks, the Tyranids, and the Necrons, they're already aggressive. I don't think they have to be any more aggressive than that. And so I've let it on normal. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We have only few gateways. I don't really like having a bunch of them around. And wormhole pairs, yeah, just a couple more. Plus, I've decided that there's going to be no guaranteed habitable worlds. We're going to have to struggle. This will be a struggle. This is the whole point. And hopefully it works well. Yeah, that was been my somewhat shortened but still quite elaborate preview video. I hope you guys are as pumped for this series as I am, and I can't wait to get started. I'll see you guys next time.